What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about Zerocool and VeeFriends. If you haven't heard about it, there are plenty of other places that you can find about what it is and what you can pull from there. Especially check out Josh Luber and Gary Vee actually talking about it here. Also, Tyler, Lou, and Ryan from Car Talk Pod talking about the box here and also unboxing it with Gary Vee himself. So I'll leave those there for you to go see if you don't know what they are. But in today's video, we're going to talk about some of the questions that I have around this product and the actual drop price of it that happened last week, and my thoughts around Zerocool and their way of releasing new products. And Zerocool is intended to be the newest addition in addition to Panini, Topps, and Upper Deck. And I also had a chance to meet with some of the collectors over the weekend in a show and talk about this as well, which was super exciting and a lot of very interesting conversation. So make sure to tune in all the way till the end. But before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it, comment it, whatever you can. Really appreciate it. Let's get started. So you may be asking, what exactly is Zerocool? And I want to go over the mission statement that they have on their website listed. So it says it's a trading card brand. It's an arm of Fanatics, of course, led by Luber, focused on creating trading cards for icons, leaders, and brands. So the key word that you have to kind of think about here is for, the word for. So it doesn't say that they're making these trading cards with icons, leaders, and brands, or in partnership with. And it also doesn't say that they're making trading cards of icons, leaders, and brands. So the word for has a very unique meaning, and I'm sure that they had a lot of thought put into this. So the first question I have is Zerocool purely a manufacturer for these icons, leaders, and brands? It's a huge difference, right? Panini, for example, does not create cards for the NBA or for Tom Brady, but they create it for themselves and license, the material or the auto or, the images from the players or from the associations. And another key thing that's important to note here is that it is certainly not for existing collectors, which means that it is a venture that goes beyond the boundaries of the current collector base, meaning this is potentially a proposition to tap into those multi-million markets that's beyond the collector base, but really thread into the fan base, the unique fan bases of, for example, in this case for VeeFriends, Gary Vee, or further when we go into artists, BTS, Beyonce, or when we go even further into the brands category, that you're really trying to address the markets of Supreme fans or Supreme followers, right? So this is a very key difference that I see with Zerocool, is that these partnerships with quote unquote the hottest, most iconic brands, artists, you name it, I think is going to be tapping into a market with trading cards themselves beyond sort of people who are already exposed to the trading card category. So this is a very cool idea, and it's certainly novel and innovative. I haven't seen yet in the industry where they are not only just tapping and going deeper into the pockets of the existing collector base, but they're essentially coming out and saying, hey, we are going to create this non-sports trading card category that is going to be for iconic leaders and brands and artists, and essentially monetize on this together with the artists versus taking it all home themselves and producing something for the collector that is existing, but rather tapping into those people who, 30, 40,000 people at a show, for example, at BTS show, who may not know a single thing about trading cards, but when they find out that something of, their idol, their artist, fabric or their autograph being on a card, that it would really bring them into this huge existing industry and make it even bigger, right? So I think that's a very novel and innovative idea, but the key word again here in the mission statement is for. So next question that I had was, why did they choose, why did Luber partner with Gary Vee and not only put Gary's images on there or his autographs on there, but really use his NFT project, a very successful one. So, put VeeFriends images onto the cards. So first off, I think it's important that we look at this production quantity that's supposed to be very transparent and look at some of the possibilities, with numbers here. So as you can see here, it says that there were 250 cases and there are 4 boxes per case. That means there's 1,000 boxes, and there are 1 pack per box, means there's 1,000 packs essentially, and there are 10 cards per pack. So there's going to be 10,000 cards of these, right? And the boxes that were produced were 1,000, but they only released 800, meaning that the remaining 200 were sort of gifted to the key people in the industry or their friends or whatever as a gift. So only 800 really made it onto the actual market. And it's super transparent here, right? Like how many cards you're going to be able to pull and the base cards that have parallels. And if you look at the images, I don't know about you, and I don't own any of VeeFriends NFT. I think they're kind of funny. I have seen children's drawing that were a little bit better than that, but I don't think that's the point of NFT, right? It's really the meaning, the intrinsic value, who drew it, in what context, and what is the audience that you're tapping into. I mean, like you can say that Supreme is just a 26 PT font, slanted with italics with a red border. You could say that, but it's really the brand, the intrinsic value that we have really given it, right? So that's sort of the numbers, and you can obviously get an original sketch by Gary Vee as well. So it's not just simply a printed photo or printed material, but rather a true sketch. So that's pretty cool. So back to the question of why did zerocool and Josh Luber pick Gary Vee as their first partner or first project to create for, right? And here's my take on it. I think Gary Vee is an advocate for sports cards and trading cards in general, and also have this very successful NFT project, right? Perhaps this was sort of a safe way to enter into a market, a brand new market where they're hoping to tap into the non-existing collector base, but perhaps hedging against an artist or a leader who has no idea about the cards, and when they're talking about it, they have no idea what they're talking about, but rather picking someone, an influencer, an icon, who's very familiar with trading cards, sports cards, supply and demand, all of that, manufacturing, distribution, that the audience may already be familiar with what this conceptually is. And so the idea of putting an NFT image onto a physical trading card may not be a huge shocker for Gary's fans, meaning that there's less barrier to entry, and there will be sort of like an easier transition into, hey, I want to try out this, flagship product. I want to go and bid for this product that, my icon has made, but in trading card form. So that's my first take on it. But either way, these boxes per box have ended up going for $2,150 each. Astronomical in my opinion. And if you kind of look at the average price of the cards, since there are 10 cards in a box and there's 1 pack in a box, you're paying essentially $215 per card on average. Do you see a scenario where these cards go up to $500 on average, $1,000, $10,000 average? Does Gary Vee's fan base have that potential to drive that, right? And my answer is yes, absolutely yes, because I believe his NFTs are trading anywhere between 15 to 17 ETH right now, which is, again, an astronomical number, but that's why I think this project has been so successful, and it's a testament of Gary's influence. And I don't think that folks who bought into these boxes, and I assure you there were people who bid $1 million on this box, or a couple millions on this box, aren't really looking into this card as an investment to 2x from 2150, but perhaps 10x, 20x, who knows? But it's a matter of, it's all pure mathematics in my opinion. It's a matter of how many people are willing to hold this cards or this unopened box even forever, versus the group of people that got the box but are truly in the mentality of flipping. So they are willing to flip this box when it goes up 2x, 3x, and whatnot. So it's really that very simple supply and demand curve math of Are there more people or less people who are willing to sell? And that would really determine where the ceiling of these boxes can be in the secondary market. And more importantly, I think if you're a true Gary Vee fan, the chase in this box is getting his hand sketched card, I believe, and there's supposed to be 15 of them, and like I mentioned, there's 1,000 cards in production or that's out there live, so you're essentially giving yourself a 0.15% chance opportunity to pull this or buy this or whatever, and I think that probability is actually very generous. When you look at probabilities of pulling, an RPA of a rookie that's hot in basketball, football, baseball, all these. It's my guess. I don't know the exact numbers, so if you do, please leave them in the comments. But my guess is they're less than 100,000. Does that make sense? So 1 over 100,000. I think it's probably a lot less than that. So if I'm wrong, please leave them in the comments. But I think the opportunity to get a handwritten drawing, essentially you're kind of, touching the card that Gary touched. And, if I was a big fan of his, I think that would have a huge value for me, right? So we'll see what the prices of these handwritten sketches go. Hopefully there are some public sales that come out to determine that, but probably not anytime soon. So the third point that I kind of got away from this first launch was this IPO style pricing structure. So IPO style meaning this is a blind Dutch auction. So let me kind of summarize it for you in like 15 seconds. There's, again, 800 boxes that were available for the public. Everyone puts in their bid, like what they're willing to pay, right, per box. And basically the price that all the boxes will be sold for is the 800th lowest amount. Does that make sense? So if 799 people put in $1 million and the 800th person in terms of like range put in 2150, then it goes for 2150. Everybody else pays 2150. No one pays $1 million, right? So it's really this sort of idea of you setting the price, right? Like the market setting the price. It's a testament of the market. The market never lies, supposedly, right? So you're leaving it up to the market to determine what the value of these boxes should be. Now, I have some questions about this because, IPO is, of a company going from private to public. Obviously, there's a ton of regulatory bodies that, do a ton of like audits, investigations, and making sure that there's some level of checks and balances into this. But, something like this, it's all private. We have no idea, absolutely no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And whether they intended it or not, I think there's a huge potential for market manipulation. For example, if you are intending to buy, let's say, 100 of these 800 publicly available boxes, so you want 1/8 of the supply and kind of capture the supply, let's say, right? And you want to make sure that these go for a certain price, you could essentially go and put in 10 million for 100 of those boxes, because you know that the likelihood for the 700 rest of the world putting in 10 million is probably low. Heck, you could probably go and put 100 million. The risk is so low for you to get those 100 million. Those numbers could essentially be shill bidding, I think is the term that we usually call for in the trading card space. And also another way of market manipulation, God forbid, I hope this is not the case, is this project needs to be successful for a lot of people, right? Specifically, the main players in this release is Fanatics, Zerocool, same team, and Gary Vee, and so Gary Vee's team. So in my opinion, right, you really need this set to be successful, and there's a lot of ways to manipulate the market if they really wanted to, or if they did or not, I will never know. But there are opportunities for example, right? Gary could tell some of his rich friends to bid for it. I don't know if he would go that petty, but that's just the idea that there's definitely ways to kind of manipulate the market price of this intentionally or unintentionally. And we would never know because this is a private sort of, organization. We will never get releases of audits or investigations, but that's one thing that I really don't like about it, is that everything is kind of behind the curtain and we will never know, what those 799 bids were and who they were from, right? But one great thing I'm sure that Zerocool obtained from not only the profits and the revenue and the sort of the buzz that came out of this, another great sort of piece of asset that they gained out of this is data. So they essentially have a data point of how much someone would pay for VeeFriends image on a card, at least 800 of them or plus more. Probably, I'm sure there were maybe 800,000 people who bid it. Who knows? They essentially have this wide array of data already of how much people are willing to pay for Gary Vee's NFT image on a paper. So now when they, kind of forecast ahead, maybe they're going to partner with Bored Apes, they can essentially project out how much this would potentially go for and how much of volume and interest they will get so they can get the supply and demand right. The rule of the game is that you get the supply just a tiny bit less than demand to maximize opportunity. Now, again, I don't work for Fanatics, I don't work for zerocool, I don't, talk to Josh Luber. I don't know if maximization is the goal, the end game, the mission, the vision here, but for a profit-seeking company, typically maximizing opportunity is always number one. Of course, with boundaries of morals and ethics and all that and values, but if that is truly their intention, they can really get this down to the science of like getting the demand just or getting the supply just below demand so that they can maximize the opportunity, whether it's by price or whether it's by number of products that they will release. I think 1,000 was a good number. It was a very conservative number. They could have probably shot for a little bit more. My guess is like 10,000. I think Gary Vee's fan base is supposed to be like 13 million people. So I think you could have gone there. But again, they're trying to test the market in a conservative way with these small short printed releases to understand the market, basically. These next few projects including will be a trial of the market opportunity, the market size. And when they get that science down right, they are looking at an immense amount of opportunity for their own, shares and profits, but also for the secondary market. Look, they produced 1,000 boxes, but they sold 800 of them for $12.50 each. That's $1 million straight in the bank, for these cards. Probably that cost them 10, 20K to make in total. A huge profit margin. Of course, they're not going to just take the profit and go home. This is pennies. These are just projects. And so they'll probably, reinvest it back or whatever it may be. But a huge potential for the secondary market as well. If these boxes double in price, we're looking at every, 2x the valuation of these boxes in the secondary market, a $1.2 million opportunity being created over and over in the multiple. So I think the opportunity definitely exists here, and I'm really excited to see what kind of other kind of creative things that they end up doing. I'm not a huge NFT person, so I didn't really get excited about this project. But for example, if they put BTS concert worn jersey on there and then an autograph on there, or whatever it may be, I'm on it for sure. Or like imagine, right, like Leonardo DiCaprio kind of giving away his stage worn attire from like the Gatsby or something, and then it's a Gatsby set. I think that's really, really cool. I'm a huge Leo fan. So yeah, I think definitely the opportunity exists, but this blind auction thing definitely also has a lot of room for manipulation and market tampering. So overall, I think this was a huge success for them, and like I mentioned, I don't think this was going to fail in any way possible. They made sure that all the boundaries were set so that it was a successful project. But I'm very excited to see what zerocool will be offering in the future, and see how the market changes over that. And of course, like I mentioned, the most exciting factor out of all of this is the new opportunity outside of the current collecting base. The people who don't know about trading cards, the people who don't know how to penny sleeve, people who don't know what unboxing means, like those people who are already sort of like a fan of an icon, an artist, a brand, whatever, being able to get into this sort of hobby of collecting cardboards. I think that's the most exciting part of this all, and I think it's going to be executed very well by the right people. But I hope that there's no sort of shadiness going on behind the scene, and that this is truly for the goodness of the hobby and everyone wins, whether monetarily or from enjoyment of it or the fun of it or the happiness out of it, right? So that's my take on VeeFriends and zerocool's first collab. So now let's hear from some of the collectors in the hobby what they thought about the first release of zerocool with VeeFriends.
Great.
Did you get any VeeFriends?
I did not get any VeeFriends, no.
I literally called you and I was like, you should bid, and you didn't bid. I called you. I have the receipts.
I never want to be the first one on the line.
Why not?
Why put in that much risk?
Okay, so this is what I have come to understand about VeeFriends. I genuinely don't think that sneakerheads know anything about cards, and even to this day, they still don't understand anything about cards. All they understand is that you look up something, you find a comp, and then a card that had no value to them 2 seconds ago all of a sudden has whatever arbitrary
the supreme mentality, right?
Exactly, right? So this is like the first product they ever understood top to bottom, like understanding who made it, what the manufacturer is, how the releases were. So like I looked at it as if I erased VeeFriends IP from the card, would I buy that product, right? And if I had replaced VeeFriends and put in like an arbitrary sport, I absolutely would have bought it because it was Uber's first product. So knowing that the production value is there and knowing everyone's there, as long as whatever the floor price is set at, these guys would value it at the floor price and pay more for it because that's exactly how these animals work. So
what's your time horizon for these boxes?
I honestly don't know. I've never seen a sports card product that's completely done on FOMO. Have you? I haven't. Like the whole thing is structured on FOMO. Seeding the boxes to the influencers, doing the whole thing. No,
those are all FOMO.
They don't save aside 200 boxes of NT to give out to Logan Paul and everybody to rip on live to generate promo. They don't do a huge media tour for they release Flawless or NT every year. They don't do that. This is like a whole new world, and this is his first product. Well, honestly, what sold me was the production value of the box. They're spending more time and money.
It's like Flawless.
Yeah, it's better than Flawless. Well, no, it's on the same tier as Flawless.
Like an
right?
equivalent.
Yeah. On card, like the fact that they paid Gary Vee the time to draw those stupid sketches. Like, I know he's not an artist.
What do you mean? He did that for his project, though.
Yeah. But like to do it to like in comparison to like a Topps artist, they paid $2 for this.
Okay. Let's get out of that. How much is Gary Vee making out of this? How much was his contract?
I don't know, probably a large percentage of the deal, right?
Does Fanatics get anything out of this?
Yeah, I don't know, whatever the product sells for.
Exposure.
I mean, like exposure. Like they have to test their mechanisms on how to build the products too, right?
And they sold it at what, $21.50 a box?
$21.50, so they made.
No, that's what it bottomed at.
Yeah.
Bottomed at. But in Gary's perspective, right, or Luber's perspective, they made 1.7 and they're allowing a $3.5 million opportunity for their followers to make.
Yeah. So then everyone is taken care of.
Everyone. They're using their brand. I mean, they're using their brand to the fullest.
Absolutely. I mean, like that. I think there's also like a case study for the investors.
You think they sold the maximum amount that they could have?
No. They did a calc of what is the maximum per box value that they can get, right?
And then on top of that too,
they're not Panini.
How many whales put in huge bids to prop up the market to hit the floor price of $150, right? Like the whole thing, like even the distribution of it, like allowing 40 boxes to a single transaction, like. It was
buy 40.
The stage was set.
It's the Hermes mentality.
Have you heard the bounties that the guys are putting out for 100K?
They burn their bags.
Like they're so it's off the
just so that they keep the volume low. They go and burn those bags. They don't want that out in the secondary market.
There's a guy out there who's propping up the market saying that he's going to buy any sketch that hits the market for 100K, which is crazy.
Well, you let us know how much you sell your boxes for, okay? Yeah. Now it's on camera.
We'll find out.
He won't sell me one right now for $5 or $6 grand.
Yeah.
Are you trying to cop one from him?
Right now.
You wouldn't buy it? You wouldn't sell for $5 grand?
No.
What do you mean? You're basically into the other two for almost free at that point.
Yeah.
Trust me, I tried to tell you. How do you not do that?
Greed. It's the American greed.
Greed, baby.
Greed, baby.
He went in with greed, he's leaving with greed.
Friends, we'll see what happens.
So is there one on eBay right now for sale?
There's several.
Several.
7. Give it to him for 7.
I just offered him $5 or $6 grand for his box right now. He's like, no, I'm not going to sell it because he's like, I'm going to see what happens.
Right.
That is the market.
He's making the market stronger by saying no.
But this is what every market needs, right? Like the problem with a lot of sports card markets that we have right now is that everyone like transacting cards is great, but everyone has paper hands with everything. But there's no product in the history of mankind that I could have had the power that I have as a consumer holding the quantity of product I have, right? Like, I could have like... Alright guys, that was my first episode on zerocool. Hopefully more to come. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
That was awesome.